Orthodox faction and Jacobite faction, there is a big difference and big fight going on. So naturally, we'll be thinking, what is the real difference? Why the fight is going on since more than a century? Chera Chola War, which is famous in India, is remained only for 100 years. But this war or fight is going on for more than 100 years. This started in 1911. Now it is 2025, still in the legal battle is going on in Supreme Court. Christianity is meant to be is meant to make the followers of Christ, to know Jesus. John 17 says, to know who Jesus is and who is the real Father who sent Jesus. And through Jesus, we should be one, like Jesus in Father and the Holy Father in Jesus. We should be one with Jesus and to get the grace. So Orthodox, the term used by Jacobite Syrian Orthodox Christian and Malankara Orthodox Syrian Christian, is the same. That is Orthodox. There is true belief. Orthodox means true belief in Jesus, in knowing Jesus and being in Jesus. But why the difference? This beauty is that in Chera Chola War, thousands or lakhs of people died. Here, only a handful of people died. It is supposed to be not a purposeful one, but of course can be. One or two can be purposeful only. Even an attempt of life was, I could survive. Maybe due to wrong information or situations, they tried to attack. The police, Holy God saved me through the police at Kajarabatam Church. If you see the history by around 1910, the difference started. Difference started because a famous metropolitan appointed by the patriarch, he was suspended in 1911 by the Holy Patriarch of Damascus. The Holy Catholicos, who is Vattasseril Tirumeni, popularly known as Vattasseril Tirumeni, was a well-versed, knowledgeable person, very close with God. And he continued the fight. In 1912, a new Catholicos, he was a Malankara metropolitan, Malankara metropolitan, he was a Malankara metropolitan. Malankara means this area for this community. So when he was suspended, a new metropolitan, as a Malankara metropolitan, was made as a Catholicos by his supporters. His supporters were mainly from the southern side of Kerala, while the middle and northern side were more influenced by the patriarchal group. Because this patriarch bishops were more popular on that side. Bishops sent by a patriarch, that is the Syrian bishops. They were considered as very holy. And another thing is that this Malayalam Manorama was a famous newspaper in which a big say was there for the Vattasseril Tirumeni Catholicos faction. Of course, they had shares also in Malayalam Manorama, then Manorama, not in the present Manorama. And Manorama building property was also in the church property, then church property. So naturally, Deepika was a was contesting in paper popularity with Malayalam Manorama, and that Deepika belonged to Catholic community. And Manorama started earning the name, started earning the popularity of all the educated group of different communities. And all the educated group in these people, majority started supporting the Manorama views of Holy Catholicos. That is Vattaseri Tirumeni, but not the Catholicos who had been consecrated after 1912 by the Holy Patriarch. So those who supported the Catholicos were called as Katholika Kashi. And those who supported the other Catholicos group of Patriarch is called as Patriarch Kashi. Patrika Kashi, Katholika Kashi. Then the fight went on. In 1934, I think, a new constitution was made by the educated Kottayam group. And in that they told that Patriarch is only the spiritual head. He has no say in or act, he cannot act even in consecrating the bishop. He can only consecrate the Catholicos, which is already selected from here, because this is an independent church. So, and even if in his absence, the majority of the bishops can give the leadership to another bishop, usually the eldest of the bishop, and can consecrate him. That's what I came to know. So the early spiritual powers is vested with the Patriarch, spiritually. That is consecrating the Moron and all. Moron means the holy. There are 7 sacraments more important for the church. Of it, the Moron is used in it. So it is being done from the Patriarch, and it is made to different portions, and each portions are holy, and that is kept in the Catholicos. So when the fight started increasing, started developing, it went into many cases. Vijay Mathai, my grandfather, appeared for the Patriarch side group, but it was not called as Patriarch fight. My father's father supported. He was an MLC and advocate. But it was the Patriarch side group. The cases in 30s was in Molandurthi Church, Molandurthi Marthoman Church. So all the people were against a single family. That was the beauty there. And all these people were Patriarch at that time. And another group, and that 2 cases in which he was the advocate, it went on a compromise later on. Maybe because he was involved in the compromise. And there was another case in Tripunithura Church and one more church. He was the advocate, Tripunithura Kaningachara Church. So like that was a minor case. But by 1958, I think, main case came to the Supreme Court. When its verdict came, supporting the 1934 verdict of Holy Catholicos. 1934 constitution of the Catholicos group. Because naturally Supreme Court will see that a foreigner should not have a say here in India, except for the spiritual affairs. So anyway, justice is on the There is something called truth and justice. We have to appreciate both. Justice is based on records. So C.P. Ramaswamy here, who wanted to dominate Travancore, entered the Travancore through the court as an advocate for patriarch by stating it is a fight between the uneducated people and the educated group. So the records are with the educated group. The royal court verdict itself, it came in favor of the Catholicos. Actually, what happened prior, how the patriarch got this much power, that is a question. I'll explain later. Then again, in 2000, the fight started going on in every church. The Catholicos faction will go there early to pray, and patriarch faction will hit them or try to hit them. But being brothers, the fight is to a limited extent. And again, there is a family feud among own brothers. One will be a patriarch, another will be in the Orthodox group. There is no real difference. But later on, this education matter, there once in the 18th century, we know that the holy people like Parimala Tirumeni and all were involved in the Marthoma Church dispute to an extent, indirectly or directly. And they supported patriarch. In 1876, otherwise the Vattipanam, that 3,000 pagodas means around 10 to 12,000 rupees worth money at that period in 1818, during the time of Holy Catholicos 7 or 8, deposited in the Travancore account by the church. It will go to the reformist group. Reformist group in the church, that is called Marthoma. Marthoma, there is another group called Marthoma group. There was another group. Then what happened? To win it, to make it finally secure, that amount in the name of the Catholicos. Actually, Catholicos were previously appointed by Patriarch, and prior to that, Patriarch gave permission. That was going on since 1653 or few years after, maybe 1663. 1663, that is during the Kunen-Cruz oath. But still, they were together in the Catholic Church. After few years, when the Catholicos was consecrated, they started taking the leadership, people from the best family. That is Paglomatum. Best means you were converted by Saint Thomas and were the priests. One was Paglomatum, one was Saint Thomas came here in 1st century AD. One was Paglomatum, one was Kalli, another was Kaliyangal. There were 3 Brahmin community, Nambutiri community, called Brahmin community in Kerala, who were made priests. Out of many Brahmin communities and Kshatriya king who were converted. One Kshatriya king got converted, was a priest, but successors we continued as the king of Christians, even though they were Hindus. So these Kalli became extinct, and Kaliyangal were there in Chingavanam and all. Kaliyangal family was there. Okay, they were in Kottayam, Chingavanam. They came from Trichur side. Kalli were more there in nearby Trichur, after that Trichur. And these people of Kaliyangal finally merged with the Paglomative people. They had different names, no? Like Pariyatigal, a lot of names. There was an Eramban from Erambachan called Maliyakal Erambachan, but his original family name is Kuchaparambel. That is part of Padayatingal family. Padayatingal family is part of Karthadath family. Karthadath family is part of Kochuparambal family. Kochuparambal family is part of this is the Kaliyangal family. Anyway, they all merged with these people alone continued as the Pagalomatum. Even though they had that origin was really well traced, and people got married to Pagalomatum. And Pagalomatum family, different people became the Catholicos since that period. Seventh Catholicos, I think his father was a Taragan, was given Taragan status, and he had a lot of money. And eighth Catholicos in 1808 deposited 3,000 pagodas. See, whatever money they get from the family, that will be given to the church only. They won't take it. They won't give it to their brothers at that time. They will give to the church to build the church. And every families who are involved in building the church comes up. So 1808, that 3,000 pagodas came, and that's why the fight started. Later on, reformists wanted to dominate. They also belong to part of another Pagalomata family, good family. Anyway, it was the royal court verdict came in favor of Catholicos only, not to the reformist. And that is being based on the 1876 Mulundurthi Sunnahodos. Mulundurthi Sunnahodos is where the number of churches was more, members were more, because many people made small churches. And in the churches, it is only we found that Marthoma church, more members were in Kodanjeri and Tiruvalla side. And Tiruvalla side itself, equal number of people were there in Orthodox church and from other churches, areas. I remember one of my great-grandfather from that Kalyangal family origin attended the church as a member of the church. Another great-grandfather's cousin attended because he had another church. First cousin of same family. But so a lot of churches, more number were here. I think Parimala Seminary was made as a seminary church, was made as a church. Actually, it was like a church, made as a church, and representative came from there only during that period. So finally, with a huge majority on this side, the case was won. So a patriarch was given the whole full powers, saying that because they thought that from the very beginning of 326 AD 326, patriarch had spiritual control. Actually, patriarch could not control, but through the Cananea bishops and the king who had relationship with is supposed to be the representative of Christians, they could install the bishops, bishop like Archdeacon. So it was called as King of Christians and installed Archdeacon, that is hereditary head of the churches, of all the churches. And in nearby King of Christians was at Chandamangalam. So they were called Thomases. So Villar Vettat, Villar Vattam. There are a lot of books, even in 1928. It's going on. Written history, you can find it. So what happened? To the point, St. Thomas came here in 1st century AD, and St. Thomas did convert a lot of people. And the people till 326 were not under any group. They were not even called as Christians, because the Christian name was coined much after AD 52. AD 52, that's when 52 or 56, whatever it is, when St. Thomas came here. Jesus itself was himself, he was a follower of Jesus. The group were called as Nazarenes or among Jews. So Jews were converted, Brahmins were converted, because they are supposed to be Brahmins of Kerala only. because they are supposed to be Naphtali origin. Naphtali and Aryan together is Nafadiri and Nambudiri, says the another historian. So anyway, and Kshatriya is naturally the father is Paglomatam, and mother is matriarchal line is taken. Mother is called from Vetat. So that is why Villar Vetat. Anyway, that goes. So only these people were converted. And after the Syrians came, the Syrians continued as a separate group. And till they got married with some Hindu people, they allowed their sisters, ladies, to get married to the kings who are Hindus and all. Marriage or whatever the system is, I don't know. So they were very prosperous, and they even were very close to the kings. But they maintained the hereditary line among the Canaanite Christians only to be only that of the Syrian blood who came from Canaan. They are supposed to be from Israeli blood, Jewish people. They are not supposed. They are actually Jewish people at that time. Anyway, there were a lot of wars going on because whenever the king is sending some spices, Moors used to attack. After the Chola period, by 11th century, Chola took control of Chera Empire. 13th century, Chera, eldest son of Cochin, two children, eldest ruled Cochin and youngest ruled Villar Vetter. And again that small kingdom continued to be the youngest children, continued to rule the king of Christians. But in 1499, there was, due to the big attack, heavy attack from the Zamorins and by the Moors, they had to run away from here, and they settled in. They made the capital, shifted to Udayambirur. At that time, the Portuguese came, and they came nearby their original capital, Kodgalur and Muziris. And the Portuguese Vasco da Gama was asked help, and Vasco da Gama treated them as brother in arms. It is written that Veera Godavarma had asked. There was no Cochin king, Veera Godavarma, but Vettat king, being a small kingdom and supposed to be and being the brother of Cochin in heredity, is supposed to be a Cochin king, and supposed to be. And based on that, they came, and Delanoy attacked the Moors and Zamorin. Zamorin was giving Mapala status to the Moors because of then custom, enjoying, well, Moors can have their children also here. That is custom, tradition, like they were called as Mapalas. Caste, just as we see in the among the Catholics and Jacobite Canaanite Christians, they consider only the blood. I mean, not the religion and not the group. They can intermarry like that, or even Nadars, Nadar Hindus and Nadar Catholics used to intermarry even now, and like that, lot of among Pulia community also it is seen. Even now it is seen in their marriage. So they can take any, because race is more important. So, but anyway, they could choose to be, mostly they had chosen to be Muslims. They could choose their own. Anyway, I am not going to that. So that they had a very good naval force, and that was defeated by Portuguese with the support of these local Cochin and Villar Vetat group. They first captured Goa because the Goa was under two Nawabs, under one Nawab, and two Nawabs, including that Nawab, had given protection treaty with Zamorin, and so Zamorin was afraid he couldn't attack much. And some of the portion, okay, that is another part of history. So here what happened in the case when in 1958 it came in favor, as I told, it came in favor of Catholicos. Then again the cases went on 4,000 churches. There was a big fight. And the verdict came in 2017. Justice Maliat was appointed to see the number of persons who attended the churches. So naturally there were more number of churches for Catholicos because Catholicos side were more richer at that time. Patriarch side was having around, if suppose there are, some says Orthodox factions only 15 lakhs. So suppose there are only 15 lakh. There was equal amount of people in both sides. But number of churches were more for Catholicos because educated people. In last 20th century, if we see my great-grandfather, from father's side, he was not educated, he was a farmer. From my father's mother's side, that is Travancore, he was educated and he was having BA degree, along with all his brothers with BA degree and PG and all. So one generation ahead were Travancore at that time, among the affluent class. So naturally, it affects the money also were more for Travancore people. And like that, the newspaper influenced them much. And they were sure that they would win the election conducted at Parimala by Justice Maliat. And it came to verdict got confirmed that all the 1,000 churches should be given to the Orthodox faction. But they didn't. Church means, usually when church means, church property also goes. So Orthodox faction felt that the property also will go. But the Jacobite faction, which made a split again, I mean, just prior to that, that is in 1974, when 3 persons who were priests went and took bishop post directly from the Holy Patriarch instead of going through Holy Catholicos. So naturally a split came, and these people who supported, the 3 people who persons who were supporters were called as Patriarch group. And the other people, 1974, the other people who said that it should have gone through Catholicos only. And Catholicos only should have consecrated these 3 bishops. They were called again as Metran Kashi. And in 2017, when this verdict came, the Metran Kashi, that is Catholicos group of Kottayam, they got the churches as per the verdict. But the verdict, they didn't allow, the other people didn't allow them to enjoy the, other people means the Patriarch group, didn't allow them to enjoy the church property or even the church. So for 30 churches, I think, 30 bishops, when they're on hunger strike at the time when Sri Umman Chandi was the chief minister, bishops of Jacobites, because 20 churches, because of the fight, 20 churches were closed and under the control of the world. World means government. It is, world is under the control of something, it is written in the Bible. I'm not telling that our government is under the control of something, but worldly fight victory. So when there is no worship, naturally we can say it is under the control of something. If the worship should be there, whatever factions wins. So again the fight went on. Now Supreme Court says, because again that is the world. Human being here, divine people, should sit together when the Jesus is in their heart. They should make a compromise because they are one with God and one in God, and God is in them. While the world will decide every time confusion. So now Supreme Court 1958 verdict is there. Royal Court verdict is there. Supreme Court 1958 verdict. Supreme Court 2017 verdict is there. Now 2025, Supreme Court is saying whether the properties of the church belongs to the church or not. Now it is going to be another fight that is going on. This is the difference between both factions. My uncle K.E. Mamin went on 40 days hunger strike. That is in 1950s. There was not much, it was not much use, but there was a huge crowd to see it. He went along with one bishop, and one priest along, and another person. This fellow, K. Imaman, he's a Gandhian. And 40 days he didn't take any food. It was in Kottayam Kurishapalli. And in Chingavanam there was some movement to make the compromise. Of course, it didn't directly help, but indirectly, Patriarch made a compromise later on. And our Holy Catholicos Basilius, then Holy Catholicos of this, Givergis Lydian Baba, it's a powerful Baba. He accepted the Holy Patriarch very warmly, like a subordinate. But anyway, the verdict is there. Whenever there is some difference, the verdict is there. Now the question is whether before AD 326, whether the church was separate. Yes, the church was separate. We were never under them. But when still, I am to understand that since we are called as Syrian Christian, before that we were not called as Syrian Christians, we are called Malankara Nasranis. Even now people called as Malankara people or Nasrani people. That is, since we are called as Syrian Christians, we came under the control of Patriarch. But since 1876, the Patriarch had direct control in all the affairs of the church. Even before 1876, one of the Catholicos, even one or two Catholicos, Malankara Metropolitan was ordained by the Patriarch. But that is after Kuningros oath. Prior to that, we had understanding, but the king of Christians, that is a Hindu king, who is supposed to be the protector of Christians, because their predecessor at the time of Saint Thomas became a Christian. So that king of Christians had the say here. And the archdeacon had the say here in the spiritual affairs. Ordaining affairs, the king of Christians had the say. Now, the question is whether the Patriarch should continue to decide our internal matter when our people are not having the right to vote to elect the Patriarch. Our Holy Catholicos can consecrate being the elder among the bishops, but he has no right to vote. None of the Indians has right to vote to elect the Patriarch. Here, the other way, when we see the Patriarch should be given the right to elect our person, our Catholicos. Actually, when we see spiritually, Indian, there is nothing called India. Whole human being are one. Our Hindu philosophy says, Vasudhaiva Kudumbakam. Indian philosophy says, whole world, one family. That's why our Vivekananda also told the brothers and sisters of America. So, if we are one brother, if brothers, why not be given the voting right? And whether the Catholicos or the Patriarch is empowered by God to cure anybody, as done by many of the disciples who were then running the church. 12 disciples were there. All were given the power. Saint Peter was the leader. James, Jacob, he was also a leader. But Saint Peter was given the leadership by 3 times, because 3 times he opposed because of the human mentality. 3 times he talked before the cock crowed 3 times. He cock crew. 3 times he spoke against Jesus. So that was compensated. Not by confession, but showing the love. The question is whether we should show the love. Yes, of course, he had confessed. After that, he showed the love. Confessed to himself. Himself means Jesus in him. But prior to that, Jesus told, Son, you are the Son of God, he told. Then Jesus told, on this stone, I will build my church. Jesus, Christianity is that which believes Jesus is God. Jesus is the Son of God. And Father the God sent him. Okay. Good night.